Alright, now I'm going to show you how to make a lid for the pinch pot. Mine is going to be fashioned or styled after the top of an acorn. So this will be like the bottom of the acorn that would hold a nut, and then I'm going to make the cap as the top for my pinch pot. So again, we're going to start with a chunk of clay, smaller than what we used for our pinch pot, but not much. And even though I don't need this one to be in a circle, I'm going to start with it in pretty close to a circle or sphere, and I still want to warm my clay up, really squeezing it as hard as I can, because that will help you get any trapped air in there out. Alright, so I think I have it somewhat warmed up. Now I'm gonna try, and this clay is pretty dry, try and get this one rolled into a sphere, and I'll show you why. It's because I want to make it into a circle that will fit over the top of my pinch pot. So I have a pretty much a sphere. It's a little bit wider, right, sort of thinner than it is this way, and I'm going to put this down on my paper and I'm going to squish it with my hands. Okay, now it's still way too fat to make something, so I'm going to squish it again. You might even have to stand up, right, and push down. And so the reason I started with a sphere is because I need it to be a circle, essentially, to cover the top of my pinch pot. So I'm going to press this down, make it even bigger. And again, because my clay is a little bit dry, you see these edges are kind of cracking. So I'm going to compress, it's called compress the clay, by pushing those edges actually back in a little bit before I put the sponge on it. You could do this with the top of your original pinch pot too. I didn't need to because it wasn't quite as bad. Alright, so now I have a disc shape, right, or kind of like a thick circle. And again, now I'm going to get my damp sponge and heal up some of these cracks before I move any further. We don't want to get it too wet. Too wet will actually make the clay unhappy as well, and when it starts to dry, it won't dry as evenly, and that could cause it to crack right in half. So we're not using a lot of water on our sponge. I squeezed all the water out of this sponge already. See, I'm squeezing and nothing's coming out. So I dipped it in the water cup, and then in the water cup I squeezed all the water I could back out, and so now it's just barely wet. Alright, now let's see if my circle is big enough. The way I'm going to know, I'm going to set it down on my placemat, and then I'm going to put the pinch pot on top. So it needs to be bigger than the pinch pot because we want it to kind of come over and fall over the edges of the pinch pot. So you can see mine is bigger, okay, it sticks out a little bit, but it's actually not big enough yet, so I need to press this out even a little bit more. You could use a rolling pin. You don't want it to get too thin, right, about the thickness of your pinch pot. So now let's see how I'm doing. And that's pretty good. I'm just going to curve my edges a little tiny bit to make them fit then. So again, right, at least this big. And actually I'm going to go ahead and make mine even bigger so you can, because I want yours to be even bigger, right? It'll give us a better chance of everything working out the way we want it to, and our lid actually staying on the pinch pot. So healing those few last cracks that I made with my sponge. And now, oh, you can see, right? So I would do this, if I wasn't making a video, I would do it flat on my table. So I'm just holding it up so you can see how much space I have extra for this part. Now, I have in my head what an acorn looks like. It would be nice to have an example too, but I know the top, right, is kind of gonna have a little hump to it. So kind of like a pinch pot, I'm using my hands, right, to just very gently shape this clay into a little bit of a hump. kind of like that. And can you see it? So it goes up instead of flat. And now I can start to really turn my edges. And so very similar to a pinch pot, or if you've made a plate with me before where we turn the edges up, we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm keeping my thumb on the inside and using my finger just to gently press against that thumb and make the clay turn up. So while it was a little bit annoying that my clay was a little bit drier than usual, it's kind of nice when you go to do this part because it's really easy to hold on to your clay, and when I bend it, it's pretty much staying where I put it. So I'm going to set it down again so I can really work with it on my placemat. Really turning those edges up. So it's almost like a little water bowl for a bird or something, but we're going to flip it over, right, so that it's a lid for my acorn. And now that's a little bit too big, so I can turn it a little bit more, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't try it on there, right, like a hat. So turning. Too big is better than too small. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't fit on top, well then we have a short bowl and a tall bowl, and that would be okay too. So this is fitting pretty good. All right, that's a nice fit on there, and I like the way it looks. It looks like an acorn top coming over to me, and so I need to make the stem of the acorn so I have something I could pick it up with. If I wasn't making an acorn stem, I could just make a small a sphere, right, a ball to go on top of there. So I'll show you how to do that first. So if I just wanted to make a lid and I didn't want that lid to look like an acorn, maybe I want it to be a miniature cookie jar, right? I just took a small piece of clay, rolled it between my hands, and it's a ball. But you should probably already know this. You can't just stick it there and expect everything to be okay. Whenever we're attaching two pieces together, we need to do what's called slip and score. And so it's actually score and slip, even though it's known as slip and score. I want mine to be an acorn, so I'm going to take this sphere, kind of roll it more into something that looks like a stem instead. And mine might actually be a little bit too big, right? So I'm just gonna, I could pinch part of that off, or you can use any of your clay tools to maybe just make a little cut there. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. We don't want the stem to be, or the handle, whatever you're making, to be too thin, because that would make it break. Alright, I'm just kind of smoothing that out from where I cut it. So I need to score, so I'm going to mark on my clay here. You could do this if you have a toothpick works good, a toothbrush works good, and not just on here, but also on my pinch pot where I'm going to attach it. So I'm kind of making like a tic-tac-toe board on there, crisscross. Now I need water, so I'm going to use my sponge again. I put some water on that part and really kind of smear this up, right? This, it's okay if you do get a little bit gooey, because that's going to help the clay marry to each other. Now, that looks kind of stuck and better than with just placing it on top, but to really get it on there, I need to put my finger on the inside so I don't damage or change the shape of my clay. So my thumb is on the inside, and then I'm using my fingers on the outside to really push that on there. It's also going to help, you can use one of your clay tools to really get in here and kind of press this clay. It's hard to do it without looking. Kind of use this tool to smooth it from the stem. It makes it look nice, right? Because it makes it look like it's all one piece, but also is really going to help this stem stay attached. So now that I can see it, I'll just do that a little bit more. And I can also use my tool, because I already tried adding water, and I still have those cracks are coming back here. So I want to compress that clay still. You can always use one of your popsicle sticks. If you had what's called a rib that we often use in clay, that would work. And I'm just very lightly pushing and smoothing, doing my finishing touches here to this. I can always use my sponge to smooth things out if there's any rough parts. I also like to just use my fingers a lot of the time, so then I can see what I'm doing and feel what I'm doing. All right, so now that, I do believe, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm going to turn my stem a little bit, and I could be done now, right? I actually want to add just a little bit of a texture. So a texture is when the way something feels. So right now this is smooth, and I'm going to add a different texture. I want it to be kind of bumpy like the top of an acorn. And so I'm going to just kind of take the other end of my stick, and I'm just making small little grooves in here. It'll give a little bit of contrast between the bottom of the acorn and the top hat of the acorn. So you probably have some other ideas of what you could make for a pinch pot with a lid. And it could just be a pinch pot with a lid. Like I said, it could be a miniature cookie jar. You could make it look like a cupcake, right? So this could be the bottom of the cupcake, and then you could make it the top look like icing or put a cherry on top. Could get pretty creative with your handle and make it any shape you wanted, like a heart. So now I'm just kind of, I don't want to do this too hard because it would change the shape, or if I did it really hard, could poke the whole way through. So I know it's hard to see what how hard somebody's doing something, but really very lightly, right? Just kind of pushing this tool into my clay. I'm trying to get all those areas, and then when I put it on, you can kind of see, right? There's that rough part, and here's the smooth part, and then I'll have a handle that'll be able to take it off, and I'll have a little pinch pot with a lid. All right, that's that.